Hello people of the internet, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my personal favourite of the major London terminus stations. This is London Paddington. You may even recognise the setting and some of the trains from an Another Station Another Mile video, specifically one from Season 1 last summer. Yeah, we're kind of replicating that today-ish to a degree, as well as going back to my very roots with Train Sim World as we continue our march towards Train Sim World 2, which obviously their main UK outline route on launch will be in London. It's the Bakerloo line, which connects to London Paddington. There you go, it all ties together rather nicely. This was one of the original 3 routes in Train Sim World 1, and this was the first route I ever played on in the game. Understandably for me, because this route has a lot of nostalgia is actually the correct word, even though this is only set a couple of years ago. It's supposed to be set fairly modern, but you'll be surprised by quite how much has changed, even in this view right here. And indeed, with the train we're going to be driving today. I had a like kind of change of heart with this one. I was going to do something more epic, which you'll probably see the week after this one goes out, but do you know what? I'm feeling a bit more practice, a bit more prep with that one. And after the last one turned out to be over 70 minutes long, it was with an epic sort of freight expedition across the Tees Valley. I decided to have just as much simpler sort of thrash today. Today's a blast. It should be under half an hour, this one. This is a sprint. We are in charge of this train right here, which is the 11:06 London Paddington to Plymouth. Yeah, I fancied another day out by the seaside. I fancied another summer's day, and the weather is actually quite nice outside. This is kind of like last week's episode in the Tees Valley, where I'm like, okay, time to be realistic with the weather, kind of match what the weather's doing IRL as I'm recording this, and the weather seems to have improved. Ever since that first ASAM Plays video where I was like, no, do you know what? The weather's terrible. I'm going to make it nice in my own world, even if it's rubbish outside. Ever since, the weather has cooperated IRL, which is rather nice. Some more trains over there. There's another HST. There's a Class 165 DMU lurking over there. And obviously on the far side, there would technically be London Underground trains trundling through there on the far side. But alas, maybe they can add that with the... Well, it wouldn't be the Bakerloo line, would it? Oh, I don't know. Someone in the comments will clarify that one. I don't think it is, because I remember it's like the District and Circle line type stock that runs through there. That's what I remember trundling, doing a heckin' trundle through there. So anyway... The only train that matters right now is this one. It's the London Paddington to Plymouth. As I said, I fancied another day out down by the seaside. Fancied going down to the lovely, have a run along the seawall at Dawlish. Yeah, go down there. Unfortunately, the Great Western Main Line, as modelled in this game, only runs as far west as Reading. But that's okay, because that means we can have a nice sort of quick thrash aboard one of my favourite trains of all time, and one that I do dearly miss. He's one that called London Paddington home for, goodness me, the best part of 40 years, I think. Oh, there's another DMU entering the station. And our service is about set to depart, so I'd better get aboard our HST, our Class 43 high-speed train, hence the acronym, you see. And, oh, this is nice. I already feel like a nice sort of nostalgia from playing the game. And there's another HST coming in. Wonder where he's come from. Wonder where they come from. Anyway. No time to worry about where they've been. It's about time to worry about where we're going. Most importantly, we've got a green signal. And we've got 35 miles to Reading. And I've got a flask of tea. I've got a snack. So I'm all prepared for the journey. And let's just take one last check of our train, shall we? Well, firstly, let's get a nice picture for the thumbnail, shall we? Oh, yeah, fill in that. Nice. No, work it. It's like I'm talking to a model on a photo shoot. It's like, yeah, work it. Oh, yeah, working the camera. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Oh, you're a tiger. You're a tiger. Yeah. It's just like, I'm a train. What are you on about? Anyway, let's have a quick look down our train. Doors all shut. Everyone's aboard. No need to worry about that today. It is time. It is time to do this. I'm looking forward to this. As I say, I'll get into the various reasons why this route, this train, and everything kind of means a lot to me, and it's very nostalgic for me. But for now, we've got to be at Reading by 11:32, which is just under half an hour away. 35 miles in under 30 minutes. For any other train, that might be a challenge. For this one, Oh, it's bread and butter. It's time to demonstrate that to you all. Sound the horn, and is the neutral. Yeah, better put the reverser in forward. Brakes are off. Let's do this. Oh yeah. Listen to that beautiful MTU thrash. Bit more muted than the sound of the original Paxman Valenta engines that were in these HST power cars to start with, which had the loudest sort of shrieking from the turbos. I believe it was a turbo sound. All I know is anyone who heard them, including my dad, has stories of how the front power car would be loud enough as it was exiting a station. But then, of course, the rear power car would be further up to speed and revving even harder by the time it came past, so that would be twice as loud. And here we go. We are leaving Paddington Station. Oh, this is a stretch of line. This is a part of London. This is a part of the railways that is very, very familiar to me. And we're just at a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit initially. There's Royal Oak Tube Station on the right. And on the left there is the site of the old Ranelagh Bridge stabling point. Right in there, that convenient corner triangle-shaped car park in amongst those houses there. That was actually once a stabling point for locomotives which had come into Paddington and wanted to go and refuel and get a bit of maintenance done without having to head all the way out to a location we're going to go past very shortly. So that being the opposite side of Royal Oak Tube Station meant that, especially in the era of my dad being a spotter and everything, perfect place to watch locos sort of fubs about in the yard there and get refueled and that between turns, and also watch trains departing and entering into London Paddington right there. So there you go. Royal Oak, an excellent train spotter's tube station. And that is the dive under from that same underground line. And in there is Westbourne Park, the next station on that tube line. Now, interestingly, that dive under wasn't always the case. And for the longest time, I believe tube trains just kind of sidled across the main lines. To be like, it was almost like they were like, oh, excuse me, pardon me, we need to get to that station over there. And the high-speed trains, the expresses like this one, would be like, excuse me, can you get out of the way? So in the end, they were like, do you know what? Why don't we build you a separate little thing to go under? So, well, you know, the speed limit has just gone up a bit. And we've got green signals. So you know what that means. Oh, you know how in the last few episodes I've been... Oh, there's another train over there. That's a 165 unit. They're predictably for your sort of commuter services. There it is. Little 3-coach train. There it is. I've ridden on those IRL as well. They're very nice. That's quite nice. I like them. They're pretty well outfitted. They've got like USB plug sockets at every seat. Pretty much every seat, I think. Yeah, they're pretty good, you know. And we're up to 50 miles an hour already. The train is just, oh my God, we're idling and it still wants to go more than 50 miles an hour. It's like, no, come on. This thing is just waiting to be let off the leash. I love it. Oh, look at it. Look at this mighty beast. Oh, I do have quite a soft spot for the HST, and I will get to telling you that just why as we go through this run today. Oh, look at that. It's working the camera again. Oh, yeah, I'm feeling it. Yeah, I'm feeling it. That's lovely. Right. Aha! We're heading past right now. Up here on the left will be the North Pole Depot, which is what is still around for the moment to maintain the IET, Intercity Express Train Cucumber fleet, whatever it is. That, I think, is the line that heads up onto the London Overground lines around to Willesden Junction, I think, if I'm getting my geography all correct. And over there is North Pole Depot, which, as you can see, did also tent HSTs while they were still around. There's one, kind of chilling in the yard there. That's kind of its equivalent now of what Ranelagh Bridge would have been in previous years for things like steam locos and Western diesels and 47s and Class 50s and things like that. There's some more bits of the depot. And up here on the right is something that kind of sums up this route for me now in terms of this route was released along with this game 2 years ago. 2 years ago, 2018. Unless I'm getting that... I'm pretty sure it was 2 years ago. And I did my video celebrating the HST on the Great Western Main Line, heading London to Dawlish, last summer. I believe it was last May, actually. Since then, that depot over there, Old Oak Common, this train, that train passing us right now, all have gone from this route. All have gone. That has been completely wiped off the map in favour of something to do with High Speed 2. And so as that, which another station, another mile fans might recognise as the branch off to the new North Main Line. That's where it branches off, just through there. You see it through the trees there. It's quite the treasure trove of stuff on this little part of the route, which is rather nice. But yeah, Old Oak Common, completely gone. Legendary locomotive depot and TMD. These, the HST, gone off this route now. The only parts of the GWR network they're running on now are in the short, I believe they call them GTI sets, where they're like half as many coaches, but they're used for like passenger, like smaller commuter services down in the West Country, which is really nice because, you know, you've got each of these power cars has the best part of, I think, 2,200 horsepower or 2,250 horsepower. Two of those, 5,500 horsepower with half the load on. Oh my God, yes. Just inject it into my veins. I mean, that is Thrash Central. So I believe, well, for one, we've got green signals, which is nice. And for two, I think I've been gnashing away there while the speed limit has gone up to 100 miles an hour. So there's people on the train presumably looking at their watch going, well, when is he going to open the taps? I mean, come on. Come on. We got on this train knowing that this guy was going to be driving it, the guy who loves to thrash everything he drives. So go on, up to it. Well, do you know what? We're trundling through Acton Mainline Station, which I've been to before. I was here to film a rail tour with a GWR steam legend, 6024 King Edward I on a rail tour. That was, wow, it was over 10 or 11 years ago now. So let's fire up another GWR legend, shall we? If we're allowed to go 100 miles an hour, if you really insist, let's do it. And in fact, the speed limit is going all the way up to 125 miles an hour. So, given that we're driving an Intercity 125, I think it'd be rude not to. Not to do what, you ask? Give it the beans, that's what. Oh, yes, 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 yes. We're up at max throttle now. This is lovely. I'm a big fan of all of this. Just a big fan of all of this, really. It's a lovely sunny day. So heading out of London. I've got a map up on the right just to keep tabs of the stations we're passing through, because we will be passing through them at very high speed. So from here on out, what time is it now? It is 11:14. So we need to be there in 18 minutes. What speed do we need to be averaging for that? I don't know, because I can't do maths that quickly. So the answer is as fast as possible. That's just gonna be my answer there, really. Coming up on now is, would this be West Acton Station, I want to say? No, this would be Ealing Broadway, I think. Would this be Ealing Broadway? I think so, because over there on the right are the tube platforms. And under here is, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is Ealing Broadway. And we're already up to 80 miles an hour, pretty much. 29 miles. That counter is going to start decreasing very quickly. Deceptively quickly. Yeah, this is bringing back so much in terms of, like, this is the route in Train Sim World that I probably have the most personal nostalgia for, because, like, obviously, like the Tees Valley and the Northern Transpennine and things like that, they're historic routes and historic locos and that. By extension, this would be West Ealing. Yes, I think this would be West Ealing, because on the right, if I've got this right there, there's a bay platform. Yes, up there is the branch to Greenford via Drayton Green and places like that, which is another way, which is the way the parliamentary train runs to get to the new North Main Line now. I managed to cover both when I did that video, which is pretty fun. So this won't be Drayton Green. This would be, I assume, Hanwell coming up now. I've only got a map that's like numbered, so I'm just like ticking off the stations as I go through. I feel like that might be Hanwell. Oh my God, am I lost already? No matter, it doesn't matter, because more importantly, we're about to tick over the magic 100 miles an hour mark. I believe this might be the fastest we've been in any ASAM Plays video so far. I don't remember hitting 100 miles an hour in the Southeastern Class 377. But yeah, what I was saying was, obviously the Northern Transpennine and the Tees Valley are based on legend, like classic, decades past sort of eras of British rail travel, and the East Coastway is based on a modern thing where the units and everything, they're still, everything on that line is kind of how it is right now. I could go and travel on that line right now and it would be kind of as it is in Train Sim World. This, despite only being modelled 2 years ago, so much of it has completely transformed. You know, quite amongst everything else, quite apart from the fact that so much of it, I believe, would this be Southall we're coming through now? Potentially? Flying through? Yep, I think that might be Southall. At 110 miles an hour, it's kind of tricky to tell. I mean, I guess I could risk a quick look with the free camera. I might do that. I'm keeping a close eye on the signal marker up in the top right. So far, we're all clean and green so far, which is lovely. But despite the fact this route, as it is in Train Sim World, is only modelled based on how it was 2 years ago, so much has changed. I mean, quite apart from the fact that almost all the stations are being transformed for Crossrail, so that you've got all the Crossrail stuff. This was literally made, I think some parts of the route back near Paddington are modelling some of the early construction work for Crossrail. Well, there would have been, because Crossrail would have been fully underway by then. So, yeah, there's a lot of that modelled, or just some of the early construction work modelled. All the trains have changed. Obviously, this would be an IET now. There's no HSTs running out of Paddington anymore at all. Just so much. I believe this would be Hayes and Harlington. Going to, I couldn't even see any of the station name boards there. Was no way I was going to see that. What we can see, though, is what our train looks like from the outside. Oh, it is magnificent. It is utterly magnificent. As we're about to hit the speed for which this train got its name, Intercity 125. It was literally named because it could take you into cities, in between cities, from one city to another at 125 miles an hour, which is what we're doing right now. In fact, we're doing 126. Yeah, it's named the Intercity 125. It can do 125 miles an hour. It can actually do a lot more than 125. In fact, I believe this still holds the official world speed record for diesel locomotives, because these are two diesel power cars, one at this end, one at the other end, pushing as well. I'd say a total of about 5,500 horsepower, which, you know, is substantial. That's some. That's more than enough than you'll need. Is this another station coming up? I think it is. So what we're going to do here, still on greens, Noom. Noom, there goes our train. So we're going to fly alongside and quickly check out, what station are we at? West Drayton. Right, okay, we're at West Drayton, which means over there to your right would have been another selection of sort of abandoned branch lines. West Drayton actually has quite a fascinating history. Oh my God, we've already charged through like half the route by the look of it, in terms of the stops anyway. Yellow signal, well, that's not for us. We have got more green signals, which is lovely. And in fact, let's cheekily put the throttle back up to max, shall we? Let's just do that. Yeah, at West Drayton, there was actually a network, there was actually a line called the Staines and West Drayton Railway that used to run down to a station at Staines West. I believe parts of it, this would by extension be Ivor Station, not to be confused with Ivor the Engine from those kids' books, which I actually had. I remember those. I love them. Another sign that this is how much the line has changed. Look at this. The overhead wire, what would you call them, gantries? Oh, there's a freight train, Class 66 on. Very nice, big old container train. That's very cool. Look at that. They're in a process of still being built. They're not. Some of these aren't finished. And in fact, look, yeah, there's gaps. They're sort of modelled in a half-finished state. Obviously now they're all done because the IETs are all operational. All of this is all overhead wires now. And this would be Langley Station. Oh, we are speeding quite a bit now. Okay. Which does also remind me of the point that I was making before, that this HST holds the world speed record for diesel locomotives at 148 miles an hour, which I believe it was a test train, I want to say, and it was on a downhill bank with slightly less coaches than normal on, but still, it counts. Doesn't matter, it counts. And the speedo goes up to 150 miles an hour on R1 here. Unfortunately, due to the regular speed limits, I'm a little bit wary of testing that out. All it would take is one red signal to pop up out of nowhere, and we would be completely in the doo-doo. I cannot emphasize how much in the proverbial doo-doo we would be. But that's just fine. We can sit at 125 miles an hour. You know what? 125, that is fast enough. And most importantly for this run, no intermediate stops. This is not a stopping train. This is fast. This is speed. There you go. There's all these tractors modelled at the diggers and that modelled at the side of the line. This would be Slough Station. Let's quickly jump out. Quickly jump out of our body and check. Yes, this would be Slough Station. And there goes our train. Bye. Let's quickly hop back in our train. There we go. I'm scared to let it go for too long, but all the signals so far have been green, so there's nothing to suggest anything otherwise. And it's time to have my first sip of tea of the video, because even though this is a much shorter run than normal, train drivers still got to have their tea. And I've also got to have my snack. I have got a snack this time. Something I haven't had in a while. A strawberry muller rice. It's like sort of rice pudding, yogurty pudding. There you go. I just remember these were really nice. And then the other day I was like, do you know what I haven't had in ages? Strawberry muller rice. So what you're about to hear is me seeing if I remember strawberry muller rice correctly or not. And if I still like the taste of it as much. Oh yeah, no, I remember it. Oh yeah, yep. It is just as nice as I remember. Oh, that's lovely. That's so nice. Like I say, it's sort of a mix between like a yogurt and rice pudding. And it is, it's nice. The rest of this video is just going to be me eating this yogurt now. That will be Burnham we're going through. So, yeah, this line, running it in Train Sim World now, is really nostalgic for me, which is weird to say because, like I said, a couple of the other routes are set in like classic, like decades past of British Rail. But this is one that I remember growing up. Like some of my first ever huge intercity journeys were from London Paddington up to Cardiff, and then a few years later over to Cheltenham. But Cardiff was the big one. We're talking like 12, 13 years ago at this point. This would be Taplow, I think. But those were some of my first major big kind of rail journeys. They were the first sort of epic adventures I had, and I did them all aboard one of these, aboard a HST, out of London Paddington, out that way. I distinctly have this memory, because when I was travelling to Cardiff, it was a girl I was in a relationship with at the time. That was my reason for travelling to Cardiff most weekends at that point. But I remember it might have been one of the first times I'd ever done that journey, because when I was coming back into London Paddington, I was on that final stretch, you know, past Acton Main Line and coming through, there's all the buildings and everything. It was in the dead of winter. It was in December. So it was obviously dark, and it was really cold and like a little bit foggy, and all the lights of the city were all bright. This will be Maidenhead, I'm figuring. Yeah, Maidenhead Station. We're blasting through at a rate of knots. I think so. Of some of the Pedant Brigade comments I've had, there was one the other day that made me chuckle. I think someone was like, do you not know any other way of saying you're going fast than saying at a rate of knots? Come on, man. Think of something else there. I'm like, no. I'm now going to say at a rate of knots in every single video I make, even if it's not appropriate. Because, you know, I'm like that. But yeah, I just have this distinct memory of just sitting, not window hanging, obviously, but like the windows, because the old slam doors on these coaches, the Mark III coaches, had the sort of window drop lights that you could bring down. I remember leaning on the window as it was open, having the fresh air on the really cool air on my face, and just seeing like the city lit up as we were trundling back in. We weren't at full speed or anything because it was the end of the journey, and it really had this epic feel to me, like this epic, like I'd just been on one of the biggest journeys of my life at that time. I mean, obviously since then I've flown to different countries, I've gone to America and all these different things, but I just remember that was like the romance of rail travel really played out for me there. And, you know, ever since I've always liked London Paddington the most of all the London termini. Maybe it was influenced by hearing so many stories from my dad, who was a big spotter, and his favourite part of the world was the Western region for spotting and that. So Paddington was one of the stations he was at the most. So it just has a big affinity to me, and as does this train, as does this HST. This means as much to me as the Westerns and the Class 50s and the classic diesels that were around in my dad's time. You know what I mean? This was, and funnily enough, it kind of ended up lasting through all of them. These were first introduced in 1976, 77. I'm trying to remember that off the top of my head. So right as the Western diesels were being, you know, disposed of and gotten rid of, and then the Class 50, were around all the way through the Class 50s reign at Paddington, and then once the 50s went away in the early 90s, HSTs were still there. There's another one. Blasting past at full speed, very nice. Bet the Doppler effect on the horn would be quite something. It'd be like, sorry, did you honk at me? Yeah. Hello, how are you doing? Yeah, there's not really any point trying to say hello to any other drivers on this route when you're doing 125 miles an hour, or 123 as we're doing. And we're now only best part of 6.5 miles away from Reading. But yeah, these HSTs lasted for such a long time at Paddington. It was one of their home bases. There in King's Cross was where it was like, where are the HSTs best known for? Where do you associate them with? Those two stations. That was it. And that's why it was such a big deal when they were retired from both of them last year. I mean, obviously they're still running on the Midland main line out of St Pancras for the moment, but these were their two sort of main, their two major strongholds, if you will. And for me, they had such special memories at London Paddington and along this line and on journeys out west to, you know, places like Cardiff and Bristol and Dawlish and even Penzance when I mean, that wasn't aboard a HST, but that was when I did the Night Riviera. And ironically, that was after the HSTs had been retired on intercity duties. This station would be Twyford, I assume. I'm assuming that one, yep. Which means the next stop is probably Reading, you know? Yeah, it probably is. So that has gone by in the kind of blink of an eye. And we might still get there. We might still get there before 11:32. This might be the first time we're actually unironically on time. Although I don't think we were technically to time or trying to hit any sort of scheduled time for the run with the Class 20s on the Tees Valley line. But yeah, this whole route, as soon as I heard that this was the one they were starting off with in Train Sim World as one of their first 3 routes, I was like, yes, this is good. And there's a lot to do in it. There's obviously Class 165 DMU commuter services and that you can run with it. There's Class 66 freight services and stuff. And it just means a lot to me. And I really like the fact that Train Sim World, I don't know if they deliberately meant this, just because, like, I wonder if they kind of realized themselves just how much this route would change in the next couple of years. So they were like, right, let's preserve it right now. Let's model it as it is right now. Speaking of a 165, there's one. Vanished past us in about 0.65 seconds. And we're only 2.7 miles away from Reading. And in 1.1 miles, we're going to have to start slowing down, believe it or not. Slowing down? What's that? So yeah, I wonder. I would be fascinated to know from the Train Sim World guys from Dovetail Games whether part of the reason they decided to model the Great Western Main Line at this point in time, which is about 20... Oh, there's a yellow signal. Okay, we should probably start putting the brakes on even more then. Particularly because that 95 mile an hour speed limit is coming up fast, so let's start to jump on the brakes here, because this might catch us out still. In fact, we are speeding now, and we've still got to be coming down, so let's put the brakes on initial for now, because we've got 0.8 miles to go to a 60 speed. We're still on the yellow signal, so that's okay. We all run under yellow signals. The yellow signals. Yeah, that's the remix to the famous Beatles hit that you never heard because it was, you know, terrible. But yeah, I do wonder whether Dovetail Games decided to model this line, this route in this specific time as it was back in 2018 because they knew how much it was going to change and how much things weren't going to last, you know? I'd be fascinated to know. We also might be speeding again here. Nope. Nope. There we go. Close enough. Oh, yeah, now we've got a red signal, but that is for our platform. We've got to slow down to 50 miles an hour now. 50. We're coming in at a rate of knots as well. There's another unit. Okay, let's concentrate here. Okay, now we can coast it into the platform. Coming in over here. We're down to 37 miles an hour. Going to keep the brakes on. In fact, that is still coming up alarmingly quickly, so this is literally the only station I have to stop for on this entire run. Please don't screw this up, AJ. Come on. We're down to 21 miles an hour. We have 21 miles an hour to go. We have 21 miles an hour to go. Okay. It's coming up very quickly. It's coming up very quickly. It's going to be close. It's going to be close. It's going to be close. This is going to be close. Oh, it's going to be spot on. It's going to be spot on. Oh, yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that. And we have to unlock the doors. And when did we arrive? 11:31. We arrived 30 seconds early. Oh, look how nice our train. Look at that. In fact, I know what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to hop out the cab, and open the door and get a proper picture of it. There we go. Oh, look at that. Look at the magnificence of our HST in one of its best liveries. I think that GWR green livery was one of the best liveries the HST probably ever wore or has worn in service. I like the old First Great Western livery, the blue with like the pink neon purpley, pattern on it. But this one was really nice as well. I think I have more of a nostalgia for the First Great Western livery, like the blue and purple one, just because, or purple and pink, whatever you want to call it, because that's the one I remember, you know, when I was making those epic trips to Cardiff and that, and even when I got my last HST out of Paddington down to Dawlish Warren, it was in one of those liveried. The HST we got on was in one of those liveries, which is awesome. And we just need to pop back on board just to lock the doors again. So let's sit down in the driver's seat and do that. There we go. And shut that door as well. And there we go. All complete. Lovely job. That was a nice little blast through, I guess you'd call it the Thames Valley. Stop accuracy, 1.68 yards. I'll take that. That's lovely. I'm very happy with that one. And, well, that's my journey west, as far west as I needed to. Well, that was a mess of words. That was just a sort of word spaghetti that just came out of my mouth there. My journey west concludes here. So what I'm going to do now, door closed, and get off, and I'm clocking off. But this train's continuing to head west. It's going to head to Plymouth. So I'm just going to go take a seat in the train, if you don't mind, because I still want to go to Dawlish. There we go, the old slam doors. I wonder, yes, the windows are modelled. Lovely. Well, I'm just getting more and more heaps of nostalgia here. There we go. And that is where I'll leave you for today. Thank you so much for hanging out today. Thank you so much for watching this one. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed me getting all misty-eyed and nostalgic for a time 2 years previous. This is what I mean about the nostalgia I have for this train and this route and everything. It's like, oh, nostalgia for the times long since past 2 years ago. But this is an era I've lived through. These are all stuff that I remember growing up in my sort of time frame of being into trains and having adventures on the railways and that. And I love the fact that it's all served here in Train Sim World. And of course, it being one of the base routes in Train Sim World 1, this was the very first route I played in this game. And it has been lovely revisiting it today. So as we continue to get excited for the arrival of Train Sim World 2, today's been a nice look back in the rearview mirror, which also happens to be tinted a nice shade of nostalgia red. Red rose tinted, you could say. I'm going to go finish my muller rice and my tea, and I'll see you guys again soon.